welcome back to the channel, guys. A quick intro into the Viperine snakes. If you're in the UK, they're very similar and in the same family as our grass snakes, but they're more aquatic and they're even more designed to be even more aquatic. In fact, you know what, they remind me of microscopic anacondas in many ways. And you've got the dice snakes as well in Europe. Viperine snakes, in my accounting of them in the wild, is living in Spain in a dry, right in the dry Spanish countryside, and in the summer seeing small juveniles down by the Rambler, down by the stream gorge, where they're definitely hunting on frogs down there. There was very few fish in that stream, but quite a few frogs. And then later fishing with the boys for giant catfish in Mequinenza. So you've got where the two rivers converge. The Mequinenza River converges with the Rio Ebro, and there's some mighty silurus catfish, Wales catfish in the Rio Ebro, as any fisherman knows. And there, whilst fishing and waiting for runs, seeing these guys in the spring quite high up on the bank amongst the grass, just nestled in, as many snakes would, nestled in there in the still sort of old grass, not really grown back thoroughly in the flushes of summer, nestled in there and baking in the hot sunshine, really hot spot basking there. And then not only along the river banks, but these are really aquatic. And you'll see in the photos how clear the water is, and they'll be right underwater. And they'll go out, and you'll see them swimming out to goodness knows what depth, but they'll be swimming around and searching under those rocks. And under those rocks are all kinds of fry, but there's things like freshwater gobies, there's loaches, there's all manner of small fish of different species, some which will just be hiding under the rocks, but when they grow up will be more, can't think of the word, it's gone, they'll live in the water column, goodness me. But there's so many small fish actually living under those rocks, and they'll just spend ages, even in that quite cold water that time of year, hunting away before coming back out and then warming themselves up again, basking in hot temperatures, even though they might move away into the shade once they've got up to temperature again. But yeah, the real memory of these snakes is their really aquatic nature. They're proper fish eaters, and they're quite a greedy snake. In captivity, they can get quite chunky. I feed mine chopped trout, chopped lance fish. Honestly, my brain. Not whitebait, but they'll probably eat that as well. I'm going to cut this in a second and come back to you. Smelt. Took 30 seconds. Smelt. Chopped fish, chopped trout, chopped salmon, and I'll mix it up with pinky mice. And when they're small, chop pinky mice, mix it all together. Everything's got a fish flavour, on a serving dish, a Pringles lid or something like that, something smooth, not all stuck to substrate. And I keep them together, and they'll just come and gorge feed themselves. But when you're putting rodents in there with the fish, if you just feed too many rodents, these snakes will get fat, and they'll get a little bit too fat and chunky. I'm not bothered about that while they're juveniles and growing, but something to watch for when they become adults. So I haven't bred them yet, so as always in this channel, I don't talk about stuff I don't know really firsthand. That's coming later, but enjoy this video of us getting these snakes now, which are about 18 months old, getting these snakes outside. They've been kept in an indoor typical vivarium. They're going outside for the first year. If they can get through they've been warned, oh Dave, they've been bremating all winter for 6 months now, down to 5 degrees centigrade as a minimum, between 5 and 12 degrees centigrade. And those guys now are going out after being warmed up to about 15 or 20. So it's not too warm where they are now, because outside in the day, at night, in the day is going to be nice, but in the night time, we're still going to have some cold nights. Enjoy the video. Sorry about the waffle. Oh, I've been to school all morning. I am shattered. I don't know why. Really, it wasn't a tough talk. But yeah, just that performing, it drains your brain for a while. I need to rehydrate and drink more tea. Enjoy the video, guys, and enjoy these amazing snakes. Welcome back to the channel, and an outdoor reptile build episode, I guess. I am hot. It's like spring. It's really humid today. So what we're doing, here we have an old 4 foot, be 2 foot, be 18 inch or thereabouts aquarium that leaks. To make sure it leaks, I've used a tile cutting bit and just drilled the bottom, covered that with wire mesh, very fine wire mesh, silicone into place. On top of that, of course, a false bottom to make sure that it doesn't block and it drains well. And then we've got a little bit of this stuff. Here's a remnant, just anything that's going to allow water to percolate through but keep the substrate from getting into that false bottom, into that gravel layer or whatever you want to use for your false bottom. And then we mixed up a mixture of sand and quite sandy soil that we have here on the estate anyway. what have we done here? This, under here, we've put a depression in the soil. We've filled it with probably about inch-thick twigs off of the cherry trees and the apple trees on the estate. We've filled it with that. We've put another bit of that membrane over the top to stop the soil packing down into those twigs. And then we've put finer twigs, a real big pile of twigs on top of that actual membrane. And now we've covered that in a sandy soil. And that membrane will mean, well, not only can the snakes get in and out of the twigs here, they can actually get underneath. If it's a bit too cold or a bit too hot, they can get right underneath into those bigger twigs without all the soil sort of packing it down over time. That little bit of membrane over the hump of twigs, keeping a nice airy area under there. Over here, we're just going to use a plastic container as a small pond area. We're going to have viperine snakes and grass snakes in here, juveniles of each species in here. We're going to have water there, and that's going to have some fast-growing pondweed to kind of keep that water pretty purified. Won't need to do a lot with it, other than the occasional top-up, and to take some of the fast-growing weed out. So here we are so far. Keep watching. Now, because of the height, although we've got to make it escape-proof anyway, we're taking up quite a bit here. I want this sort of, it doesn't have to be hibernaculum, but I want this deep space they can get away from stuff if need be. Heat, cold, that kind of thing. We're in England, varies a lot. We've got water area in here, plants in there, dwarf periwinkle that I've got plenty of growing in another outdoor enclosure, grows easily, and it's low level. I don't want plants that are all going to reach up. It's just going to be, yeah, I want to keep the snakes as low as possible. They're ground living snakes, but it has got to be escape proof. I don't want to encourage them here, there and everywhere for this kind of snake. So I'm going to have that area there, somewhere to hide. Water, we've got some little primroses in there as well, just to, it's spring, some celandines, not finished yet, but we've got the essentials in place. The dwarf periwinkle, ground cover, it's going to give them a lot of security as that grows around the vivarium. What else can I tell you? One thing I will be putting in is a little bit of slate, a little feeding station, a flat, smooth feeding station, because these are going to be eating chopped up trout, chopped up lancefish, and lancefish chopped up, mixed in with pinky mice and rat pups, scented with a fish flavour to give them a good varied diet. And it's also nice to have a nice smooth feeding area to pile the food on, and they just come out and sort of gorge themselves basically. So we need to hide all of this. We need to make this escape proof and get a top on there to keep things out as well. So the lid, the zoo mesh, this is too fine for the even juvenile snakes to escape from. But most importantly, it's there to stop jackdaws and other such creatures getting in. So I've lost animals in the past. Outdoor enclosures, you've got to stop stuff getting in. Rats, squirrels, weasels, and things like jackdaws if they're prevalent where you live, crows and such like. So let all the heat escape, but the idea is it'll keep things in and keep things out. I'll show you when it's finished. Okay, so nearly there indeed. Needs to be painted brown just to lose a bit of that vivid colour. So it really was free. The zoo mesh I bought, this was free. This was a roll of stuff I'd got lying around. It's just literally, you could say, made from scrap. The tanks and aquarium that was leaking that a friend gave me, it's on a wooden stand that it came with. You could easily make a stand from con blocks or sleepers. So here we are. Pond, which I won't clean out too often. It's going to have its own plants growing in there, which I'll harvest out as needs be. Really good shelter from the heat and the cold. Nothing too high to encourage them to climb. Backdrop of a stone wall, so I'm not putting a backdrop on there. I think that looks perfectly nice as it is. And I've just let this go with the flow, rather than try and keep it neat and straight. Just that sort of rustic look. Bit of signage on there. I think once these plants, these dwarf periwinkles grow, we get a few more plants overhanging. Because we've got to, whenever you've got a pond of any kind, you've got to lose this edge, or it just looks so unnatural and rubbish. But the planting will grow around there, and we will lose that as it matures. It'll run through the tank. I'm going to keep it low level, like I've already said. So I'll report back when it's finished, when the next cold snap's gone, and we put the snakes in there. So they've been in here for winter in the hibernation rack. Time to fish them out. Here they are. Getting ready for their outdoor enclosure. So apart from the signage, which will go on tomorrow, here's the finished article, and it is like spring. Heavy showers, but look at it along here. We've even got, I think, probably the first peacock butterfly I've seen, fresh out of hibernation, quite tatty. This girl's been hibernating in a shed or a hole in the wall somewhere for months and months. She's going to start off that new generation, filling up with nectar, time to breed and lay her eggs on some of the fresh stinging nettles we keep along here to feed her caterpillars. A little bit here, really lots of dry stone wall or whatever, lots of holes in the wall, natural holes. Just something to get the public behind what they can do for wildlife. Lots more to go on. If you haven't seen them before, that the wind has destroyed, that fence I've got to put back, that's all going to be outdoor enclosures for UK reptiles. So let's get back to it. So the top's had a quick lick of brown wood stain. It's really windy today. Brown wood stain. Let's check some temperatures in there just out of interest. But that's the finished article, ready to go. So down there, a little bit of slate, a little bit of tile to feed onto. Let's just see what sort of temperatures we got. Well, that's amazing, because that's exactly the temperature those snakes were when I just temp gunned one of the snakes just now. So 20 degrees. We've got, oh, look at that, vivarium. Look at this sort of temperature, because we're in direct sunshine. Yeah, that's not bad at all. So we've got some good hot spots, and down there 17 just in the shade. Brilliant. Let's get them in and see what they do. We've got a couple of our grass snakes. I know we let them go actually, but they're long-term captives and they breed most years, but we've kept a couple back from a year before and a couple from this year. We'll just see if they get on there. We're going to hopefully encourage to eat when they see these Viperines eating. So there's a good, at least not size-wise, but with juveniles you get some idea of the difference here. Much slimmer look to the grass snake, and that includes their head. The Viperines, I don't know, thick set, almost anaconda-y. Nostrils up high, eyes up high. Very much a water snake design. I think much more like the American Nerodia water snakes than our UK sort of slender grass snakes, because Viperines really are aquatic hunters, and you can see how they get their name. They've got a very rough scaled, slightly chunky, zigzag and dorsal adorned pattern. Sorry guys, very unceremonious. Let's see if they come out and do much at all for the public to appreciate, because this part of the menagerie here, the outdoor reptile area, is the part I'm keenest to get the public behind and interested in. Whilst these are foreign, the grass snakes and other UK reptiles are all stuff we can get people behind, as well as amphibians, to help at home. Certainly frogs and toads in their gardens, as well as the newts. Easy to sell the cute polecats and the fluffy fox, if that makes sense, but to sell awareness of reptiles to the public, it takes more work, more creativity, and you need be a bit of a showman in some ways to really sort of enthrall the public with these animals. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll report back to this on the vlogs, of course, how it progresses. But for now, that's our outdoor enclosure for our Viperines and a couple of young grass snakes. And they will end up in the full open top enclosures with a pond and so on and so forth once they become adult size. But for now, I hope that'll suit them. Please subscribe. That's what the channel needs to really push it forward and to get YouTube to kind of share the channel more widely. That's all you got to do. All free for you. Give us a heads up or a handout if you like, just of that, clicking on that subscribe. Thanks everybody.